Hello, hello. I'm Stride, your host here at Author in the Headlights, and thank you for joining us. And today we've got Christopher Loric with us. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the program.
All right. Now, you do a really interesting thing. I'm not sure if it's space opera necessarily, but it's certainly sci-fi space fiction. What do you consider your work as?
It is more, I guess, the space opera because I don't go into all the technical details of how something may work or the theoretical, like hyperspace. I don't discuss how the hyperspace works, but one could find the theory behind it. And that's really just the folding of space with the tunnel,
Hmm.
but time isn't affected. Whereas the general theory and special theory of relativity will tell you time stops when you pass the speed of light, or time stays normal where you left and you have a decrease in time. So,
Quantum physics is just super interesting. Quantum physics is you take everything you know about physics and you dump it out the window and start over again. Or you can be in connection two places at the same time, those kind of things. It's totally interesting. I've done quite a bit of reading. I don't know if you'd actually call it studying, but
well, in Minerva, I start looking at the alternatives to nuclear fission. I start replacing uranium with therium, which is a nuclear fusionable material that we've known since World War II, but it's more of an energy producer than a explosive producer. I just read where China has actually properly used it to generate a 10 megawatt power plant, which for me kind of really irks because we discovered it in the United States and we never explored it for our nuclear power plants.
and let's go back just a bit. Now you've got two books out. You've got
Right.
SESG Explorer and Minerva, a Brannigan Saga, but they're not the same series, or are they?
They are. So Minerva is the second book in the Brannigan Saga. Um, I didn't name the trilogy until I was well into the second book.
Hey, that counts. And it's good for Author in the Headlights is for readers to find their next good read and writers to pick up those little bits and tidbits of the system so that they can do better on their own. And just to hear that you wrote something, quite a few years ago now, and coming back and revamping it, pulling it back on and making that book work, I think is really important.
Wrote it in 2006. I was deployed to Iraq, and it was really just Navy and Marine Corps. And then I retired, so I
Yeah.
pulled it off the shelf and I had to bring it up to speed. So much had changed. With my career, having been military now for 28 years, much greater level of experience, plus the creation of Space Force, kind of re-outlined the first three chapters of the book. So,
Well, that's probably better for it too, because as we get more experience in what we do, it changes our method of writing. I know in my series, I got better as I went. And definitely the later books are better books. I hate to say the first one was poor because it wasn't, but you still get better. It's like anything. Practice makes perfect. You can keep writing forever and not improve yourself and it stays the same. But when you're looking at getting ahead and winning and learning things and putting it down on paper and having it edited and corrected, and I mean, how many times do you write the same book, over and over and over again to get it right? But that's part of the process to make a good book. So now you've got a U.S. Navy career background,
right,
and you've been all over the world and done a lot of things in your Navy career. Um, Commander is your rank, correct?
right,
All
correct.
right. So now that gives you a lot of writing, but not necessarily fiction. a lot of reports and and that sort of thing. Um, so how was it, or how did you get into fiction writing from that kind of background? I'm sure it helps because of your knowledge of process in military maneuvers and things, which space is, you know. So does it really help?
It does. My first writing was back in my college days, a literary course, and I wrote obviously some short stories for that, and really found I enjoyed writing a story, a pure fiction story, and my instructor actually really enjoyed it, and I was going to pursue that. And I have a novel that I started, and it's on the shelf. I planned on finishing it, but that's from way back when. But then school took over, life took over, joined the military. But when I came out and said I want to write again, that's not the story I worked on. It's the one that gives me the basis for the military, how the organization is, how the interaction is between the officers and the enlisted, how they interact with each other, right, and how they operate together. And the technology is secondary to the story. I didn't
And
want to write a story so far in the future uh, that you could easily solve your issues with it. That's why in this storyline, uh, time is a factor. It takes the time to maneuver. The weapons are things we have today. Lasers are the primary weapon systems of the ships. But then how to use missiles or torpedoes? They're kind of interchangeable in space.
I get that because it takes you're talking about so much distance that you have to talk about time in order for it to get there. And by the time it gets there, where is the target? You know, that type of it's it is definitely problematic, and I can see where that can comes up. But your books now being an officer, I can see where it could quickly get away from the specifics of your toys, the weapons, the tools that kind of bring a lot of excitement into the story. But what happens if I can see your officer background being to confront the different ideologies, you know, those decisions, what brings you to that forefront of that, you know, things that threaten us as humans out in space or on Earth, versus just pulling the trigger kind of action. That's
Right.
got to have helped being in your officer position.
It does, and I've used in the second book. I used the Navy SEAL character that first appears in SCSG Explorer. He continues into Minerva, so he can bring his skill sets of not direct action, but how do you train, communicate, interact with somebody not from your own organization, or in this case, your own world. So there are officers, sadly, that will go to the trigger point. And the first officer of SCSG Explorer, because SCSG is Space Expeditionary Strike Group. Expeditionary Strike Group is a real thing in the military. So I just took that to space.
Sounds
Uh,
good to me.
though it was a diplomatic mission, it was all military. No diplomats, very little scientists to support him. And in comes Admiral Brannigan, a Navy officer. But through his background and experience, he's more of a diplomat. So he's going to try the diplomat solution first. But
That
it's
sounds good to me
heavy.
too.
Yeah.
You know, the old saying, walk softly and carry a big stick. You talk things through, but you have a support system behind you that for there to say, look, we can, but we would rather not. Let's do this the easy, the civilized way and deal with the problem without having to force it down somebody's throat. It just makes a ton of sense. It really
Right.
does.
I've had that experience, and that's how I worked that into the books. coalition building in Minerva. Uh, Whereas in SCSG Explorer, they're trying to do diplomatic and trade, find information, and the last thing that humans want is battle. But in the end, they get battle.
Way too often, it's what happens. That's history. We
Sadly.
will maybe someday we'll get past that, but till then, we do have to be able to support our positions and our freedom, freedom around the world. And that's our goal. I know. I believe that.
And that's kind of how the story develops. I mean, I'm now working on the third book, um, and I find that the way my writing style emerged, I call SESG Explorer very linear in the way you start at Earth, you travel to Gamorga, you find out what they're really like, and now it's a fight for survival back home. Whereas in Minerva, uh, we're out there. We're in space now, and people or other species are aware of us. But now you're trying to gain territory and resources, and they discover some resources in SCSG Explorer. So in Minerva, they're trying to defend that and actually start building a fleet, a real fleet. And the I don't go into all the politics or the resourcing behind it. I definitely tell you it's there, but the main character, Admiral Brannigan, is focusing on his operations and what he has to do to defend those new resources.
We're running out of time here, Chris. I'm sorry. We just have only so short time. When you said you're working on book three, when you get that one going and ready, get a hold of me. Okay.
Okay.
We'll talk again. See how it's all working out and producing for you. Thank you for joining us today. And for all of you out there listening, thank you for joining us too. You're what makes it happen. So
Well, thank you for having me on this program.
you bet. Christopher Loric, SESG Explorer and Minerva, Brannigan Saga Tale. And hey, we hope to hear more from you, Chris. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And until next time, I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights, sponsored by DurhamandPublishing.com. Look us up online, DurhamandPublishing.com's bookstore. You can find his books there, both of them. And until next time, I'm Strider.